Week 5.
Wow.
Hey, everybody. I am here with my gorgeous wife, Tana, who just told me,
I told you so. My favorite words.
So we are grateful for all the people that are on from Florida and Detroit and Green Bay, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Atlanta, Chicago, California, Idaho. My goodness, welcome. We are so happy you're with us. We're going to talk tonight about killing the ants and mental fitness. We are hoping everyone has pre-ordered The End of Mental Illness. It's coming out now in 2 weeks from today.
Super exciting.
2 weeks from today. And part of ending mental illness is learning how to not believe every stupid thing you think.
So true.
So we've talked about how we need to get rid of the term mental illness and call these things what they really are: brain health issues that steal your mind. We talked about bright minds, how to prevent or treat the 11 major risk factors that steal your mind. And last time you were gone, and we all missed you terribly.
I know. I missed you guys, but I was working with Chloe. That was really fun, I have to admit. It's always fun for me when I get to be on set with Chloe. So yeah.
We have a daughter who's a young star. And but once you optimize the physical functioning of the brain, once you optimize the hardware of your soul, you then have to program it properly. And so we talk about ants, or automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness.
Yeah, it's really so. This last week I posted something on Instagram, and you never know what's going to hit with people. Like, it's so weird, but it was just a saying, don't let your mind bully your body, which is essentially killing the ants. And it sort of resonated with people. And it's just so true. We so often allow our minds to bully our bodies, which is a really bad thing to happen. But what really struck me, because these last few weeks I've been fairly tired, like running around like crazy, and we have sort of an adjustment in our house. And so it struck me. One of the things that causes people to allow their minds to bully their bodies or the rest of their lives is when something happens that changes your routine. Your sleep pattern is interrupted, or you don't eat on time, or it's not always just your thinking all by itself. Sometimes there are certain things that cause your thinking to shift, right? Maybe you're tired, or your blood sugar is low, and so you want to really be paying attention to some of those things. And as we go, maybe we can talk about that.
Well, the ants are more likely to attack you when you're at that time of your menstrual cycle for women.
Because hormones.
And when you
But by the way, if you're a man,
menopause.
never say that. You don't get to say it if you're a man at all.
Oh, no. If you have
Do
5
not
sisters,
say it.
you totally can say it.
No.
Or if you're a
Not out loud.
psychiatrist.
Not out loud.
Not to your wife,
No.
at least. But if you're a psychiatrist, you totally can say it. Because, you want to know the truth. That makes people
But it
more
is true.
vulnerable.
It's true.
It's totally true.
When you're not at that part of your cycle, it's like, oh, I know that's true. But when you're at that part of your cycle, you don't want to hear that from your husband.
Or if your progesterone is low.
Oh yeah, no, I'll end up on the 6 o'clock news. I know it. So yeah.
Your ants go high when your progesterone level is low. So if you haven't slept, if you haven't
For me, sleep
eaten,
and not exercising, I just
going
am
through
not the
stress.
same person.
somebody from Canada, Arizona, Mexico. We have all of North America. Love that.
Does lack of sleep affect most people that same way, as extreme as it affects me?
Many people.
Where I just
More people
can't
die
shake it.
from sleep-related accidents, from being tired from sleep-related accidents, than from alcohol.
Yeah, it's weird.
So the words you use matter for how you feel, how you act, and how you get along with other people. So today we're really going to talk about the words you use and getting the language in your head correct. So these are some simple principles to train your mind. Whenever you have a negative thought, the brain releases chemicals that immediately make you feel bad. Your hands get colder, they start sweating, your breathing becomes erratic, your muscles get tense, and you just don't think right. We actually did a study on negative thoughts versus positive thoughts, and negative thoughts cause your cerebellum, temporal lobe, and frontal lobes to all drop in activity.
Yep. So it's interesting. Today, because I've been so tired lately and sort of stressed, so I went outside, and I know all this stuff, but when you're tired and you're busy, you don't do it. You forget. And so I'm like, I know I need to step back and do the things I know, even though I don't feel like doing them because I'm in a bad mood and I'm tired, right? But I went outside because it was such a beautiful day, sat in the sun and did my gratitude, just 5 minutes, 5 minutes of focusing on things you're grateful for. Just let the sun sort of hit me and focused on gratitude. And then I went in the oxygen chamber and I came out like a whole different person. Like an hour later, I was just a different person. So it just really works.
The opposite is also true. Whenever you have positive thoughts, happy thoughts, hopeful thoughts, your brain releases a completely different set of chemicals that make you feel good immediately. Your hands get warmer, drier, your breathing slows down, your muscles become relaxed, and you feel happier. Where you bring your attention determines how you feel. It's worth repeating. Where you bring your attention determines how you feel. Thoughts are automatic. They just happen. They're based on complex chemical reactions, memories, sense, sounds. So they just happen. And they lie. This is the one thing I didn't know before I went to psychiatry school, is that thoughts lie. They lie a lot.
Right? We grow up thinking that, well, I have a thought, it must be the truth.
No one teaches you.
Right.
That the thoughts that run around in your head
Are nonsense.
may just be
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
Sabotaging you. I look back to my adolescence and I'm like, if I could just like erase all of that, but I didn't have the tools.
Do you have an example?
Oh my gosh. I'm fat. I'm ugly. Things that all adolescents think. But you know, it's like you let it ruin your whole day. Like, I'm not as good as other people. Why is it so much harder for me? Like all of the things that most adolescents think, you know? And you just let it like ruin you.
I understand. More than you know. But you don't have to believe every thought you have. You can learn to kill the ants. And so I wrote this cool little book that I'm very proud of, called Captain Snout and the Superpower Questions. Don't let the ants steal your happiness. And we talk about different kinds of ants. We'll go through each one of them. But here's the exercise. Whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking and then ask yourself, is it true? So, for example, these are all or nothing ants, where things are either all good or all bad. I'm the best mother that ever lived, or I'm the worst mother.
I hear that one all the time. All the time.
All the time. And the fact is, the world is gray. In fact, in college, if there was a question on a test, things are all this way.
It's almost
or
always
all
wrong.
that way. It's almost always wrong because so few things are either black or white. And so my patients are getting better. And this month, everybody's been getting better. I've been pretty happy about that. And I'm the best doctor that ever lived. But then when I come up with someone who's not getting better, because not everybody gets better, I'm like, oh, I'm the worst doctor. that ever lived. Now, thankfully, I practice this so I don't beat myself up. All or nothing. Eliminate those. Just the bad ants, where you focus on what's wrong rather than what's right in a situation. So if you spoke in front of 2,000 people, so you did that and did a masterful job. I was so proud of you.
Thank you.
But if like one person fell asleep in the front row, you just go, oh, well, I was so boring.
Yeah, or in my case, the woman that kept giving me dirty looks, and she was throwing me off, and I'm like, why is that woman giving me dirty looks? It was everyone else is giving me positive feedback. This woman was just staring at me, and I'm like, oh, this is like really creepy, and I'd never had that happen before, and I'm getting so upset. So I stopped looking at her, and I just looked at other people, but every once in a while I'd catch her, and then afterwards I'm like, why was that woman so bothered? Like, what was her problem? She comes up to me with that same look on her face, so intense and so like aggravated. And she goes, I need to hire you for my next event. I'm like, okay. It was just her expression of intensity when she had something on her mind. She was unaware that that's how she looked, but it was making me feel like she didn't like me. And that wasn't what she was thinking at all. It's just, she was just super focused. It's crazy.
Can you imagine if she was your mother?
Oh God,
She had that
she was so
look.
scary. It scared me. I was like, what is happening right now? And what she was doing was just really focusing. So you don't know what they're
So a
thinking.
negative look from someone else may mean nothing more than they're constipated. Mm-hmm. You don't know.
Or they just are focused.
I'm glad
Do
you
you remember
didn't
that?
do that during.
Do you remember I came off
that.
stage? I'm like, what did I do wrong? Did I
do
offend that
remember
woman?
Guilt beating ants, where you think in words like should, must, ought, or have to.
This is my ant.
I also call them should and shaming
should all over
dragons,
yourself.
where we'll talk about that coming up over the next year. But
I'm good at this one.
you're really good
I am.
at this one.
I'm good at shooting all over.
And when you grow up Catholic like I did, or you know what I've realized, it could be Jewish, it could be Russian, it could be Asian, that the should and shaming ants are just so prevalent in our society. Now, let me be clear. Of course, there are things you should and should not
Right.
do. But trying to motivate behavior with guilt just doesn't work. If I think I should go see my dad, well, I won't do it because the thought makes me feel bad. But if I replace should with I want to, or it's my goal to, then I'll go do it.
Yeah, it changes how you feel.
So if, when I think about my relationship with my dad, well, I want to go see him. I love him. He's one of my best friends. Or it's my goal to have a relationship with my dad. And so then I do it because I don't feel bad about it. And I don't want you doing things because you should do them. I want you doing things because they fit your goals, because it makes your life better. Mm-hmm. Like I should kiss you at night.
You should do that.
I should.
Yeah.
It fits my goals.
But you still should.
Well, but as soon as you go should, then you don't want to.
Really?
Actually, for me, and that's not labeling ants. This is where you label someone else.
This is when you get
with
on
a
the freeway in Los
negative
Angeles.
term.
Yeah. It's full of ants.
And here, the problem with labeling, and psychiatrists do it all the time. You're bipolar, you're borderline, you're antisocial, you're narcissistic. The politicians do it. Oh, you're a Republican.
I can't turn on the TV.
You're a liberal. You're left wing. You're right wing. You have no wings. Whatever. The problem when you label someone with a negative term, or yourself, you can't deal with them anymore. It's you lump them with all of the jerks or brats or idiots or clowns that you've ever known. And you end up not dealing with them, you deal with all of them, which makes it impossible. And so labeling doesn't help. Labeling yourself.
Yeah, it's
or
almost
others.
like you dehumanize people when you do that. It's when I'm on the freeway and I get frustrated and you say something to yourself, hopefully, but it's you get so frustrated, but you don't see that person as a person. It's just this anonymous sort of faceless person. It's easier to be mad. When you then all of a sudden you pull up and you see this little old lady driving and it's like, oh, like they become human again, right? So it's much easier to dehumanize people, I think.
The judgmental ants.
I don't know anything about that's not me.
Reading some of the comments. Okay, fortune telling. This used to be my aunt. I try to get rid of this aunt. Fortune telling is where you arbitrarily, it's where you predict things are going to turn out badly, even though you don't have evidence for it. I was on CNN once. I was waiting in the green room, getting ready to go on. It's my first national television appearance. And I started having a panic attack in the green room. And my heart went fast. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I had to leave. And before I left, the internal voice in your head, I don't know if you have a voice, I have a voice, it laughs at me. And it said, you treat people who have this problem. What do you tell them to do? Don't leave. Breathe. Write down what you're thinking. And my first thought was, you're going to forget your name. And I've never forgotten my name. My next thought was, you're going to stutter. All of that is fortune telling. And ultimately, I wrote them down and then I talked back to it. Well, you've never forgotten your name. But if you do, you have your driver's license in your wallet. It was so much better. Do you ever have this, aunt?
Probably. I don't think this is as much mine as probably the judgmental aunt and the all or nothing. But I mean, I think we all probably have a little bit of all of them.
When Chloe leaves, I'll be so lonely.
Oh, yeah. No, that one's, yeah. I'm very not happy about her leaving.
We are having the
pre-empty nest.
Pre-empty nest
Yeah, I'm not happy about
syndrome.
it. No, it's not good.
Which caused you to be a little clingy for a while.
Yeah, I'm getting over it, though. I'm finding other ways. I've
And
been
now
dealing
that
with
we've
it.
adopted our two nieces,
Yeah.
you have a long way
plenty
to go.
busy.
You have a long
Plenty
way to
busy.
go. And then there's the mind reader rant, where you arbitrarily believe you know what someone else is thinking, even though they haven't told you. I have 25 years of education, 40 years in clinical practice, and I can't tell what anybody else is thinking. A negative look from someone else may mean nothing more than they're constipated. You don't know. And I often tell you, please don't read my mind. I have enough trouble reading it
Yeah,
myself.
but I'm just trying to help you do it for you.
And then the worst ant. This is what I call the big red
Yeah, this one
ant.
bothers me.
Marcia says, with the emptiness thing, it's hard at first, but it gets easier each day. Just wait till you have grandkids.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, well, we have 5, and we love them
Yeah.
dearly. And grandkids.
I'm trying to
actually-
remember that it's her life, but we've been so close for so long, it's a little hard to.
You're getting support from the group.
I know. Thank you.
Okay, blaming. When you blame someone else for the problems in your life, you become a victim and you can't change anything. And so I work on this a lot with my patients to get rid of blame. It's what is it I can do today to reach my goals, to make my relationships better? What is it I can do today?
So one of my very favorite words is responsibility, because it means the ability to respond, and it's the opposite of being a victim. And when you blame people and you become a victim, you have zero power in your life to change things. So I always think responsibility, take responsibility. The more responsibility you have, the more power you have to change it. But that doesn't mean taking the blame, it means taking responsibility.
When you first told me that, I thought that was so smart. I still think it's smart. So our friend Byron Katie has this just masterful ant killing technique that, so killing the ants is a form of CBT, or cognitive behavior therapy. And when I got to meet Katie, I read her book, Loving What Is, when I was going through a hard time. And it was just so smart. And I went, oh, this is sort of the most elegant form of cognitive therapy. So write down what the belief is. I'll be lonely, which is fortune telling. And then you just go, is it true? So basically 5 questions. Is it true? And initially you might go, yes. You have to retire and stay home.
Yeah, I've
You've
been telling
told
you
me
that. You need to retire. Yeah.
The second question, I'll be lonely, is it absolutely true? With 100% certainty, you know
Well,
that.
I've already discovered probably not, because my nieces now live in the house.
Okay. The third question is, how do you feel when you believe the thought, I'll be lonely?
Sad, depressed, anxious. I worry. I just feel like a part of me is missing.
And then how do you treat Chloe?
I want to cling to her, which probably doesn't make her want to be closer.
And then how do you treat your husband?
I tell you have to retire. I get frustrated that you're gone so much.
And how would you feel without the thought?
Probably,
if you couldn't have the thought?
So probably resourceful enough to think of other things to do with my time. Purposeful. So there's so many things I've wanted to do in my life. And even though I will miss her, I will be able to think of other things that I can do with that time.
And what I love,
and I'll be happy for her,
is to take the original thought, I'll be lonely, and turn it to the opposite, and then ask yourself if the opposite of the original thought isn't in fact true, or even truer than the original thought. So what's the opposite of I'll be lonely?
I won't be lonely.
Do you have any evidence that that's true?
Well, I'm not lonely right now. I will tell you that. I'm very busy. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence. There's so many things that I've wanted to do. I've wanted to volunteer doing some things and join a Bible study and take dance lessons. And so there's a lot of things that I can do. Now, I haven't done those things yet, but I'll have the time to do some different things. So that's yeah. Spend time with you, go on vacation, take trips with you that I haven't taken because I'm home. So
I love that.
Yeah.
So from one of my patients, the thought was useless, worthless. It's sort of what you're saying is, she goes away.
My purpose went away with her.
Even though your purpose is broad and your purpose is talking to the thousands of people who are going to watch this video. And so I asked her, my patient, was it true? And right away she said no. And that actually happens when you learn this technique. You learn to crack the thoughts that go through your head. It's absolutely true, no. If 1 is no, 2 is automatically no. How do you feel when you have the thought? And this is what she said.
Yeah.
Dead, weak, foggy, withering. Wow. And without the thought, optimistic, purposeful, content, happier. So turn the thought around to the opposite. I'm not worthless. The examples, well, I'm a team leader, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a sister.
You know what's interesting to me? This thought that I'm worthless, some of the most successful people that we see are some of the people that say that the most. It's so weird to me. Some of the highest achieving people It's very, very odd, don't you think?
It is, but it's because their thoughts are undisciplined. Tana and I worked with BJ Fogg and his sister Linda Fogg from Stanford's Persuasive Tech Lab on how people change. So one, they have an epiphany, like they get diagnosed with cancer, or they have an emotional breakdown, or they see their scan. Mm-hmm. So many people have changed after they see their SPECT scan. There's a change in relationships. I mean, you want to get healthy? Find the healthiest person you can stand and then spend as much time around him or her as possible. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, we make ourselves better by being around each other.
Mm-hmm. Because people are contagious.
Or what he calls tiny habits. And he has a brand new book out called Tiny Habits. It's really good, and it's about how people change. And I have a couple of tiny habits for you. In the end of mental illness, there's a whole bunch of them. And they don't take much time, tiny. Whenever you're about to do something, ask yourself, is the decision good for my brain or bad for it? And if you can answer that question with information and love, then you're much more likely to do the right thing. When it comes to the ants, whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking and ask yourself if it's true. If you can absolutely know that it's true with 100% certainty, just this habit will change your life. I often tell my patients, give me 100 of your worst thoughts. And I have them write them down. And then just by challenging each one of them with those 5 questions can make a dramatic positive difference. Start every day with today is going to be a great day. It's so important to do this on my to-do list that whenever I fire up my computer in the morning and I look at what I have to do, it's right on the top. Today is going to be a great day. And then I'll find in my head why it's going to be a great day, because if I have an undisciplined mind, your mind tends to go to the negative. Mm-hmm. Many people...
We're hardwired that way.
Because for thousands of years ago, that was survival.
And for some of us, it wasn't thousands of years ago. For some of us, it wasn't that long ago. We had to pay attention to what was wrong for so long that it's hard to let that go.
Yeah, no, I had a patient today where he grew up in just a lot of trauma. And that was something his nervous system...
is set that way.
It was set that way.
Right.
And
so it's really hard to rewire that.
He had a lot of antibiotics when he was a child, which kills a lot of the good bacteria, which you did too, makes you more likely to be vulnerable to anxiety.
But when you are constantly looking for the next bad thing to happen as a child, it's hard then to go, oh, I'm only going to pay attention to the happy thing. You're so hardwired for the next bad thing to happen that you're paying attention to what's wrong because you want to avoid it. You're not looking for people smiling at you on the street. Or if you are, it's like, oh, that's not sincere. Like you're always thinking that. So it takes a lot of work to rewire that and go, okay, it's okay for me to hold on to protecting myself, but I don't need to, I'm not at a place in life anymore where I still have to be that hypervigilant. So you have to work at that.
What went well today? I do this every night. It's, these are 2 habits. Today is going to be a great day. Do it at breakfast with your children or with your spouse. And then at dinner, go, what went well today? And just talk about the positive things that happen during the day. It begins to retrain your brain.
Our nieces thought this was so weird. They thought we were the weirdest people, but now they really like it. They're like, why do you keep asking us these weird questions? And now they like it.
They said that to you?
Yeah. They think we're so weird, but they really like us. Because now it's becoming very comfortable and comforting for them. But at first they were like, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's fun.
What went well today? And then, just as you said, you did today when you were feeling more stressed because you're just a little bit busier than before.
I'm tired. I was just tired. So for me, getting just a half an hour less of sleep really changes my outlook on life. And so this really helps.
Write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. Those 3 simple, tiny habits. Today's going to be a great day. What went well today? 3 things you're grateful for just make a dramatic, positive difference. I want to tell a story. I have, when people come to Amen clinics, they do a test called Web Neuro. Web Neuro is a computerized neuropsych test that measures 17 areas of cognitive function. And those of you who signed up for Brain Fit Life, our online computer program, you get to take Web Neuro as part of it. It takes about 40 minutes, but it really is great at measuring both cognitive and emotional function. And one of the tests is positivity versus negativity bias. And it's, do you tend to notice what's right or what's wrong? What's happy or what's sad? What's positive or what's negative? And so many of my patients score very high in negativity bias. Even one of my own grandbabies, when he's 10, had him take it. And so I'm developing positivity training. Now, both Tana and I, we're not a fan of positive thinking, because positive thinking is, oh, I can have the 3rd cupcake and it won't negatively impact my inflammatory markers or my weight. So we're fans of accurate thinking, but we're really not fans of negative thinking, because you're just more likely to die early and you're going to be unhappy and you're going to make other people unhappy as well.
And so when you teach people this positivity training, how to notice what's good, I think one thing that I've actually heard people say, and I certainly had this question, are you able to, so for people watching this who have grown up in trauma, are you able to learn positivity training but not necessarily sacrifice that part of you that's able to spot the thing that's a threat? Does that make sense?
It's absolutely true, which is why, those of you that listen to our podcast, The Brain Warrior's Way, The Brain Warrior's Way, the premise of it is you're in a war for the health of your brain. Everywhere you go, someone is trying to shove bad food down your throat that will kill you early. They're trying to give you an addictive gadget. They're trying to scare you with the news to drive clicks. Everything is breaking news when everything is not breaking news. And we're in a war. So the idea is not pie in the sky positive thinking. The idea is accurate thinking. But if you tend to be anxious or you tend to be depressed and your negativity bias is too high, it's going to drive you and the people you care about to have a lot more stress. So we are fans of accurate thinking. But on the podcast recently, we had Mark Wolin, who wrote this great book, It Didn't Start With You. And it was so clear why you're a little bit of a security freak. And I'm not. Because,
Well, there's so many reasons. So many reasons. We didn't have our entire lives were nothing alike. Like nothing.
Well, no, you're an only child. I'm one of 7.
Right. I grew up in trauma. You grew up with the kind of chaos you grew up with was like normal like
Five sister chaos.
right, that kind of chaos, but not like what, like who's gonna break in my house? Is it a heroin addict coming in tonight that's gonna like put axe marks in the wall?
But it wasn't just that. I mean, what we learned in that podcast is your grandmother
Right.
on
And my mom did better than her parents.
on your mom's side, your grandmother grew up during a war
Right.
where
During
the
the Great
Turks
Famine.
actually purposefully unleashed a famine on the people in Lebanon,
Greater Syria at the
in
time.
Greater Syria, but what is now Lebanon. And she got lost in the forest
For 3 days when
for
she was
3
5 years
days,
old.
When she was 5 years old. So, do you think security would have been one of her issues?
She never got over that. She was traumatized.
And so, when your grandmother was born, actually, when your grandmother was inside her mother at about 5 months, she's creating the eggs in her ovaries that has the genetic material, yes, for your mother, but also for you. And her chronic stress changed her genes, which meant it changed your mom's genes.
Yeah, that podcast
and then
was wild.
Changed your genes.
Yeah.
And that's why we talk about how important the end of mental illness is, because it's not just about you.
No. And if
Ultimately, it's about generations.
if you get a
of
chance, you should listen to that podcast. Any of you who have sort of quirky or odd behaviors that you can't really explain, it's like where'd that come from? That podcast was pretty wild. Like you told me it was going to blow my mind, and it blew my mind because he talks about how it didn't start with you, and he talks about your ancestral, this sort of DNA part of our behavior, and it's like, what? Like it sounded kind of weird to me, but it was so fascinating. And then when he started talking about it, I'm like, oh, that's so true. That actually did, like that makes sense in my life, and I'm sure that a lot of people listening are thinking the same thing. So,
And that's why these habits are so important, to retrain your DNA so you don't just pass it on. And, one of the things I did when I learned about this sort of genetic transmission is I went to my dad. And because, growing up, my dad had two favorite words. One was bullshit, and the other one was no. And I'm like, bullshit, no. Where does that come from? I'm like, why is he like that? And he always worked. I mean, he worked like 80
yeah, but he's
hours.
a self-made person. I mean,
He absolutely is. And when you realize he grew up during the Great Depression,
and he has a similar background to my family.
during the Great Depression, and then during World War II, he remembers all about during World War II. But then what I learned is, well, tell me about my grandfather. And I knew my grandfather on the other side because I was named after him. He was my best friend. He played football at Texas A&M. He was like 5'4" and 240 pounds, which not good for him. Anyways, my other grandfather, and I didn't know this, when he was 19, he came from the old country, from the Middle East to Los Angeles, and with his brother and his sister, and his brother borrowed his sister's car, and his brother apparently was a bad driver.
And oh, by the way, they probably experienced some of the same stuff my grandmother did.
About the same time.
Right.
And his brother got killed in a train accident when he was 19. And my grandfather never drove after that, held a grudge against his sister for the rest of his life. And so clearly he was traumatized. And he was traumatized before he made my dad, which meant it changed his genes. It's called epigenetics. It changed his genes, which he gave to my dad, which then he gave it to me.
And isn't that weird that both of our grandfathers were in accidents that involved trains? My grandfather was hit by a train. That's so weird. What a coincidence. Weird, huh?
Wow. All right. You do not have to believe everything you think. Now, we have a lot of questions to get to today. You guys have just done a great job. question. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of questions, but we have time. What do you suggest for seasonal affective disorder in terms of supplements and possible treatments? Well, thank you for asking that. The number one most studied, most effective treatment for seasonal affective disorder is bright light therapy.
I'm taking one home tonight.
And I'll tell my team they should post a link. We have a brand new Bright Minds bright light therapy lamp at BrainMD that you can purchase. And it has been shown to help with seasonal affective disorder, to help with sleep.
Since I have one. I have one right here, yeah. I'm taking it home tonight.
Bless you.
It's supposed to give you energy, right?
So here it is. And it has both bright white at the same intensity, the same brightness, 10,000 lux, it's bright, and blue light at the same frequency, shown to be helpful to, so this is what light therapy can do. Helps with seasonal affective disorder, helps your mood, helps your focus, helps your energy, and helps reset your circadian rhythm to help you sleep more soundly and deeply. 20 to 30 minutes a day. Do not look at the light. Just put it somewhere.
It's like while you're getting ready in the morning.
Like when you're doing your makeup. It's just like perfect.
But this doesn't damage your
breakfast.
skin like a sun lamp.
It does not damage your skin like a sun lamp. But don't look straight into it. So the treatment for seasonal affective disorder, make sure your vitamin D level is optimal. Normal is 30 to 100. Optimal for me is 60 to 100. There are studies that say people who are over 40 have half the risk of cancer to those who are under 20.
Yeah, my endocrinologist, because of having the cancer that kept coming back, wants mine pretty close to 100. He keeps me pretty high.
2, this week I was more tired than usual. Then Monday I was feeling nauseous. Why is it that when I feel this way that I crave bad carbs?
Yep.
For instance, crackers and bread.
Yeah, because you get that quick burst of energy. Now, the problem is you also get a crash afterwards. And also for some people, because it gives you that quick release of serotonin, so you get that little mood boost.
That's why people crave
right,
it.
but then the sugar too, but then you will crash afterwards. So the problem is it's not a long-term fix. So if you're going to eat carbs to get that boost, eat the right carbs that aren't going to make you sick. Things like sweet potatoes and maybe even a little bit of brown rice, or I don't suggest doing a lot of that. Don't make it your staple, make it your condiment. But a little bit of oatmeal, steel cut oatmeal, or a little bit of sweet potato, just something to give you that little bit of boost, but not so much that you're going to like elevate your blood sugar and keep it sustained there.
You're going to like this question. Is there anywhere to get recipe ideas for an elimination diet that you would recommend?
So in my cookbook, the Brain Warriors Way cookbook, we have, and in the Brain Warriors Way, actually, like we go way into an elimination diet. The cookbook is designed to help you with that. All of the recipes, rather than telling people go on a cleanse or eat the certain way for 2 weeks, it's designed to help people eat that way all the time. Also, my website, tanaamen.com, there are like hundreds of recipes to help you. Look, they just put it up.
And let's be clear with your recipes from the Brain Warriors Way cookbook. It's all an elimination diet,
right?
Because in the
That's
recipes,
what I just said.
There's no gluten, no dairy, no corn, no soy.
It's not a 2-week thing. It's designed to help you eat that way all the time. Now, you're going to get a couple recipes. You'll get a significant number of them for free without opting in. If you opt in, you get hundreds of them. So my suggestion: opt in, and you'll get tons of recipes.
And also buy the Brain Warriors Way.
Yeah, the cookbook isn't just a cookbook. So here's the nice thing. The website will give you a meal planning section. You can actually create your grocery list and all sorts of stuff like that. The cookbook has all sorts of tips. It's tips to help you make this work in your life, for your kids, for budgeting, for time, people who have like major time constraints. It's designed to make your life work with this plan. So that's why, it's just really helpful. What?
I just read this comment. Doc said I was low in vitamin D and need more sunshine. I told Doc, I've been looking for Mr. Sunshine all my life.
That's funny.
You're more likely to find Mr. Sunshine if your vitamin D level is
That's
right
funny.
and you're happier. Are cheap nutraceuticals better than nothing? Well, it depends on the quality of the nutraceuticals. But I don't know if you know, and I haven't talked probably enough about if you pre-order The End of Mental Illness, go to endofmentalillness.com. You get a 50% off coupon for BrainMD supplements for your first order. So order a lot, but use that coupon. So if you pre-order the book, which is, I don't know, $23, and you buy $100 of supplements, they'll actually take $50 off that order. So we really want you to pre-order the book. It'll help get the book some momentum, which we're really hoping to do. We have just lost a family member and are going through lots of stress. Is there one thing in particular to help our brains at this time? Starting the whole program seems overwhelming.
Yeah, I would do one thing
right
at a
now.
time.
The one thing, work on your sleep.
Yeah,
Sleep is so important because if you can calm down your nervous system, and on BrainMD, we have a brand new sleep product. We haven't even formally launched it, but you can find it on BrainMD called Put Me to Sleep.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think one thing is better. And for some people, it's like, but I can't sleep or whatever. It's like, pick the one thing you can do. If it's meditating for 5 minutes and then working your way up and then working into sleep, but sleep has got to be the thing that you ultimately get to that's going to help reset everything else.
Right, and that one habit, is this good for my brain or bad for it? Just ask yourself, is this good for my brain or bad for it? And I have just this great, very sad story of Chris, who I was doing a lecture, and all of a sudden, it was in Northern California, she comes up to me and she starts crying. And, this happens to me a lot, and so I just waited. And when she stopped crying, she said, 2 years ago, my 12-year-old daughter, Sammy, died of bone cancer.
Cannot
Just
imagine.
heartbreaking. And she said when she died, part of me was glad because she was out of pain. Bone cancer is just loaded with pain. But I didn't know how bad it would hit me. And I went to bed, drank alcohol, ate bad food, and ballooned up to over 200 pounds on her 5'2" frame. And on the 2-year anniversary of Sammy's death, she'd planned to kill herself. And then she saw me on public television, and it's my book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Body. And she said, well, I'm going to go get that book. And if it's a bad book, I'll kill myself tomorrow, which is what she said to me. And I'm like horrified. I'm just up in my office in my little chair writing, and I'm like, well, it really matters for some people. Don't make it a bad book. And she said, but it was so simple, so easy that I just stopped drinking. And I stopped eating bad food, and I started walking, and then I started running, and it's 10 weeks later.
But notice she did one thing at a time.
She did one thing at a time. And then when I saw her, it was 10 weeks later. She'd been down 24 pounds. Over the years, she lost 35 pounds. And she said, I want you to tell the people you talk to, never let grief be your excuse to hurt yourself.
And I got to tell you, that's powerful because I cannot imagine losing a child and being able to think that way. And I'm just being honest. I mean, that's really hard. And we teach this stuff, but that's the one thing that I think has got to be just so hard, so challenging, so painful. So to the people that...
One thing at a time.
Yeah.
Sleep would be the first thing I would think of.
Yep.
I was wondering if you've seen any medical studies about prayer and reducing stress or having positive effects on the brain. Well, come to think of it, last year we did a study on prayer. We studied the brains with both quantitative EEG, looking at the electrical activity of the brain, and then with SPECT. And we looked at conversational prayer, I pray for you, versus speaking in tongues. That was fascinating. Prophecy, discernment, and it was so interesting.
Was it similar to meditation?
It was similar to meditation. The emotional part of the brain calmed down,
Makes sense to me.
and the thoughtful brain went up with conversational prayer. But speaking in tongues, which people know from the book of Acts in the New Testament, it's one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. It's where you're actually channeling the Holy Spirit. Now, I know some people watching are like, what is this? And in evangelical or charismatic traditions, it's not uncommon. And so this channeling, what happened is the front part of the brain dropped in activity, which is what happens when other researchers have studied channelers. But in a couple
So
of
from a
people,
brain perspective, it's a similar function.
is channeling.
Right, okay.
But the pleasure centers in a couple of our people went up, just like they got a hit of cocaine.
Oh,
It
interesting.
was really interesting.
So because for me, I know when I meditate, I pray and I meditate at the same time. For me, they're very much connected. So I was just wondering if the effect on the brain was similar.
So what are other exercises you would recommend in place of walking like you're late for 45 minutes in inclement weather?
What about an elliptical? I like the elliptical trainer because it doesn't hurt my knee. So the elliptical trainer works for me. I have a walking treadmill that I can answer email on. I love. So it's not an intense treadmill. I don't like to run on the treadmill because of my joints. But my walking treadmill, so I'm not sitting. So if I'm writing or I'm doing email, I can just get up and move for an hour. I don't have to go to fast pace, but it's really great. You can go to the mall and walk. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can do.
So there's an interesting comment. I knew the prayer would get some comments. 100% sugar pill. If you believe it, it will work. Belief is so powerful.
It's so true.
That,
But same with meditation. It's like it's got to be the thing you put your mind into.
but a sugar pill doesn't mean there's nothing to it.
No.
It's that belief can literally transform your body.
With the faith of a mustard
Where
seed.
you bring your attention determines how you feel. And when I was a young medical student, I saw a patient who had something called pseudocyesis. Do you know what pseudocyesis is?
You told me about this.
It's about false pregnancy. It's when a woman
Yeah, I remember
believes
that
she's
from
pregnant,
school, yeah.
even though she's not pregnant. Her body actually begins to take
Yeah.
on the shape of a pregnant woman. She loses her periods, her breasts get larger.
Yeah.
She can even start lactating because belief is so powerful. Where you bring your attention determines how you feel.
With the faith of a mustard seed.
What are your thoughts regarding the saliva test to determine food sensitivities? I think the food sensitivity test can be helpful. I think a more helpful way to do it, a cheaper way to do it, is do an elimination diet. Is eliminate anything that you might be sensitive to and then add them back one by one. Is eating healthy fats okay even if you're trying to lose weight?
Almost especially if you're trying to lose weight.
Because it helps decrease your cravings.
It increases your satiety centers. It helps with the
But we're not talking cupcakes.
No, it has to be healthy fat. So she said healthy fat. So, but small amounts of healthy fat and protein together throughout the day, taken like medicine. So like medicinal type doses, you would never eat like large amounts all at once with medicine, right? So think of it like that. It increases your satiety, so you feel more satisfied, increases your energy, and decreases your cravings. It balances blood sugar, balances the hormones of metabolism. So absolutely what you want to cut back on are simple carbs completely. You want to increase fiber, but not simple carbs. So low glycemic, high fiber.
When it comes to sleep patterns, is there documented research regarding night shift workers? In other words, is this harmful to people's health? Absolutely. I'm a night owl and often get 8 hours of sleep, but I get them at weird times, 3:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So it's the quantity, not necessarily the time, of sleep. Shift work absolutely does hurt people, so knowing how to manage that, I think if you go back to, I think it's lesson 3, where I talk about sleep in great detail. I actually talk about shift work there.
But isn't there some research that says your circadian rhythm, it's not just about the amount of sleep, it's the circadian rhythm. So if you are a shift worker trying to stay on a more regular schedule, because some shift workers will go back and forth. It's like, oh, I'm going to sleep at night, then I'm going to sleep into the day. That will mess up your circadian rhythm, which can then cause problems.
And the bright light therapy lamp can actually help reset your circadian rhythm. Do CT, MRI scans necessarily show brain damage after a serious fall? The answer is no,
Nope.
They don't. Often they don't. I know a child that fell down concrete stairs at age 1. Doctors monitored her for a couple of years, said she was fine, but a few years later she was diagnosed with ADHD and learning problems. Single
So
most
common.
important thing I've learned from 160,000 scans, mild traumatic brain injury like this one ruins people's lives. And nobody knows it because they do structural scans, not functional scans. So MRI and CT, typically they're looking at the structure of the brain, which could be fine, but the function of the brain is not.
Right.
I've attempted to eliminate things from my diet. In the past, I've suffered from FOMO, fear of missing out. How can I control my cravings and feel I'm not depriving myself of something pleasurable? Well, that's the big lie, is that Drew Carey said it best. Eating crappy food isn't a reward.
Right.
It's a punishment. And so until you get your mindset right, that what you're craving is a weapon of mass destruction, it's going to be hard.
So I actually have a lot of tips on this in the cookbook, in the Brain Warriors Way cookbook. And when Chloe was in 7th grade, she actually has the classic example of this. So she came home and she's like, she would never talk to us about eating healthy because she was so afraid that it was going to make her the weird kid at school, right? She was so afraid that she was like going to miss out, just like you're talking about. She didn't want to show up somewhere, be the weird kid, but she started to get really anxious. She started to notice that her moods were not right. Her skin was breaking out. She started to gain a little bit of weight. And she's like, I want to eat healthy, but I don't want to be the weird kid. And if I go to a pizza place with all my friends, what am I going to do? So we talked about it. We came up with strategies, the same strategies that are in the cookbook, same strategies that are on my website. And so she came up with a strategy and I loved it. She went out with her friends a couple of times. She came home. She goes, this isn't hard. She goes, this is so much easier than I thought. They don't even really notice. They order pizza and Coke and I go get a salad and tea and no one really pays attention. So she's like, I thought it was going to be such a big deal, but it's not. She's like, as long as I have a strategy ahead of time, it's not hard. She just thinks ahead of time, what am I going to go get? She does it, she follows through, and then it's not hard.
All right, we're almost out of time, and we are so grateful for all of you that are watching. Over the week, we have thousands, almost 7,000 people are staying with us. We're really grateful for you. So day 1 of your task this week is learn to kill the ants. Do the 5 questions with 5 thoughts. And we have a handout for you on that. 2, start each day with today is going to be a great day, and end each day with what went well today. And these are things you should just do ongoing. 3, gratitude appreciation journal. 3 gratitudes and 3 appreciations. Appreciation is gratitude squared, where you feel grateful and then you share it. I am grateful for you. I appreciate you every day.
Me too.
We have a hypnosis audio download for you that comes from Brain Fit Life. I think you'll like it. I actually developed this for Tana when she took her black belt test. There's a great comedy routine just to begin to train your brain to be happier. It's called The Tale of Two Brains by Mark Grunger. It's hysterical.
Is that the one with the male female brain? Oh my God, it's so funny. So funny.
Day 6, write down 5 of your happiest experiences and relive them in your mind. We have an exercise for you. And day 7, use your memory to feel great anytime, anywhere. It's an exercise I developed in my book, Memory Rescue. I think you will like it a lot. And then I want you to start thinking about if you want to enter for all the prizes. We're going to give away $5,000 in cash, a free evaluation at Amen Clinics, supplements, bright light therapy lamps. What we want from you is stories of change. Both Tana and I live for the stories you tell us of how this information has helped you.
It's okay to tell
and
us
your loved
about
ones.
struggles, but we want to hear about the process. We want to hear what you're doing. So, yeah.
Great. Stay with us. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.